Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Around the Bird Bath. As always, I'm your host, Dan Nerdall, and coming to you for another Turnin' Tuesdays segment. Solo show tonight, and have kind of some big things planned content-wise next week that I'll hint at the end of this episode, and then obviously still bringing to you, if you're a Patreon subscriber, this weekend, the weekend preview for the series against Northwestern, the Wildcats from Illinois, up Big Ten country, coming down this weekend, and a little bit of a different series. No Friday game, a doubleheader on Saturday with a Sunday game. So not sure if that's because of Northwestern scheduling, depending on when their spring break might be, and not wanting the students or the student athletes to miss class, or what it might be with logistics, but a little different this weekend, and still going to get 3 games in, just not on a Friday. So the earlier game on Saturday with the afternoon slate, and then the Sunday afternoon game as well. But, obviously, recapping a frustrating loss to Abilene Christian. Kudos to UTSA making it interesting late and being in a position to tie, if not win by way of walk-off, and had bases loaded with 2 outs. Hard hit by Ty Odom, a good final at bats, but just kind of found the shortstop and flipped it to second base for the final out. So they end up losing by 1 run, 4-3. Just 4 hits by both teams. Actually, UTSA ended up having 7 hits. Sorry about that. I think it was 4 maybe before the 9th inning started. UTSA had more hits. It was both teams had four walks. That's what it was. UTSA had more hits, and both teams had as many walks, and I think UTSA had more hit by pitches, like the players get hit by pitch, just couldn't capitalize on the opportunities. Left runners on base. ACU hit a 2-run home run. UTSA's was just a solo home run, and UTSA's walks were a little more ill-timed, I guess you could say. And then, both teams benefited from an error, and that eventually helping a run score. So a pretty balanced matchup and game, just a frustrating loss when you look at the numbers and how, especially the pitching performance, and we'll get to that. But before we do that, just wanted to take a quick moment and thank our Patreon subscribers, everyone who contributes to that and donates through that and helps us do content like this, brings on different guests. Jared and Adrian have really been pumping it out content-wise, even though it's not football season right now, and a lot of things still planned, and some very exciting things coming y'all's way. And of course, want to thank our Board of Trustees, big money donors. I listened to the interview with SOSA director Ron Ellis, and Adrian did the Patreon shout-outs and did a great job. We should have taken a bet before he did that about the over-under. Like for the Super Bowl, they do the over-under for the national anthem and how long it's going to be, because we could have taken an over-under bet on how long it might have taken Adrian, in true Adrian fashion, just really emphasizing and a really exciting read of the donors, and I enjoyed it. But without further ado, our Board of Trustees members, Digitique, John Outwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Rowdy Tailgates, Gary and Ruben representing the UTSA Bird Gang Tailgate, Ray Redding and Meep Meep Apparel, Brandon Grell and the Grill Realty Group, Andy Elizalde and Proficient Benefit Solutions, Ian McClendon and SYCR LLC, Ryan Squires, Waterman Construction, Javon Townsend, VP of the DFW chapter of the UTSA Alumni Association, UTSA Annual Giving, and Artisan Vapor and CBD. And of course, our big money donors, Ben Tovar, Bunch Family, Zach Espericueta and the San Antonio Podcast Network, Alejandro Benavidez, Jacob Cavazos, Board President for the UTSA Alumni Association, John Nally, Brandon Padron, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Growers, and Home Field Apparel, where you can use the discount code UTSA Wants Home Field to get 15% off your first purchase or 10% off for returning customers. And that helps supports us here at Alamo Audible and the guys' partnership with Dave Campbell's Texas Republic of Football. So let's get back into it. Just to touch back again, because I mentioned this before the reads, but we'll just say it one more time. Abilene Christian defeats UTSA 4-3. 4 hits, 1 error for ACU, 7 hits, 1 error for UTSA. UTSA falls to 8-9 on the season. And, I touched on this in the recap blog after the series loss to A&M Corpus Christi. It just seems like so far this season, we're just about a month through the season. After this weekend, it will be the first month of the season will have passed. And it seems like they're just having a really hard time finding that consistency. They had the series against Grand Canyon and, won the series. I felt like could have very easily won all 3 games. Had the really high offensive performance against Tarleton, and then ever since then, the last 4 games, the offense has just gone stagnant and really just hasn't been there in a lot of ways. So with the 11 runs over the weekend and then the 3 tonight, just 14 runs in the last 4 games. And, Coach Allmark mentioned this after the first series of the season. They're like, UTSA is going to face better pitching. And, I haven't looked too much at Northwestern's lineup yet. We'll get into that in the Patreon series preview and everything. But some of these conference teams have some outstanding pitching staff. No surprise, East Carolina coming to San Antonio the weekend after this weekend. Number 3 pitcher in the nation by D1 Baseball, Trey Savage, coming to town Friday night, opening weekend starter. So, baseball is a funny game. It has its ups and downs, but they need to do something to figure out and kind of find the offense and find what works and how to get some more consistency with that. Mentioned the 7 hits. No one from so those 7 hits came from the first 5 guys in the lineup, and the only players with more than 1 hits was Olivo and Brock Palmer. So, and of course, like, you look at the different ways of getting on base, call it money ball, if you will, and everything with that. But, Tausig did reach 2 times in a walk. Odom didn't get on base at all. 4 UTSA players get hit by pitch, 4 reach by walk. So, So 6 hits for UTSA, and Olivo, the only player with a multi-game hit, and then 6 through 9 batters didn't record a hit. And that's just, and we've seen that a little bit, the bottom portion of the lineup just not producing as much, and it's just hard because everyone has to bat, and you have to work your way through the lineup, and when you're only getting production from the top, and then even at that, it's limited. It's really hard to get runs across, and we saw that. They only had 1 run until the 8th inning when Matt King hit a solo home run, and then they obviously brought in the run in the 9th inning, and it was looking like they were going to walk it off again in another exciting fashion, and almost, even it looked like Ty Odom was going to reach again on catcher's interference. So there are things that aren't going to always show up on the box score. Catcher's interference, Ty reached earlier in the game on that. They reviewed it again the second time. Looked a little closer. Obviously, one of those moments where the call on the field is so crucial because it needs to be indisputable evidence to overturn it, and the umpires did not see enough to overturn it, or did not see anything that warranted it being overturned. Obviously, a big call, because if they award Ty first base in that situation, then the runner on third comes in to score, and it's a tie game with the bases loaded, and still just 2 outs. And if anything, we're playing extra innings and free baseball. So a couple things that just, don't necessarily go UTSA's way. Also, too, early on, UTSA was struggling with the walks. Ryan Beard walked 2, Connor Miles walked 1, hit a batter, and then had the error at second base. And I didn't have a great view on it in the moment with Diego, and it wasn't sure if, I think it was probably what they decided was the error was, it ate him up pretty good, but then when he went to pick it up, kind of fumbled with it a little bit, and that's what hindered the throw. And actually a scary moment, as the throw took JT into the path of the batter, or the runner, excuse me, and JT kind of ran over a little bit. Stayed in the game, popped right up, so thank goodness that wasn't any worse. But that runner eventually came around to score, and you have to be careful when you do this in baseball, because sequences and everything on the sac fly to right field was what where the runner scored, and then the inning ended on the next batter. So that you take that error away, but then UTSA scores on an error as well. Maybe the third baseman makes the play regardless, or doesn't make the play regardless, who knows, but those certainly balance each other out. And then, of course, JT with the 2 walks, and Matt King with 2 walks as well. One thing that, so there was 31, UTSA struck out 31 times over the weekend. You saw again tonight, 11 strikeouts, multiple guys with 2 strikeouts. Everybody except Mason Lytle and Mark Henning, who pinch hit, struck out at least once. And then Hector Rodriguez went into third base. Well, it says third base, but I imagine that Matt probably slid over to to third, and then Hector played short. But Hector didn't register an at bat. When Mark Henning pinch hit, he came in. Anyway, a lot of 11 strikeouts, probably half of them strikeout looking, and it just seemed like UTSA's 2-strike approach at the plate tonight was a little timid. Saw a few different at bats where guys took the first 2 pitches, and then their swing on the third pitch was just not a good attempt at the or aggressive approach. But then also saw where the reverse, kind of like a super aggressive approach on 2 strikes and swinging at some really bad pitches, and not sure if that's like overcompensating or just not seeing the ball well. It looked like there was some calls that maybe were a little questionable. Call third strikes and whatnot. There's 3 different angles when that's happening. There's kind of the angle of the home plate umpire, the angle watching from kind of that pitcher's, side of the pitcher angle, looking directly at the plate, and then the batter has an angle too. So 3 different vantage points on how that ball is crossing the plate. But UTSA has to, in my opinion, have a better approach with 2 strikes. Make an effort to put something on the ball and extend those at bats, and traditionally they do a good job, and even this season they've done a pretty good job. There's still a lot of younger guys. Diego Diaz is a true freshman. Ty Odom is I believe a true sophomore, and just his first full season, as he missed the second half of last season, and then some guys that are new to Division I baseball. But definitely need to trim down the strikeouts and just have a better approach when it comes to having competitive at-bats and aggressive at-bats, and there's a balance, of course. There's certainly nothing wrong with taking a pitch. Just because it's a strike doesn't mean it's a good pitch to swing at. But you've got to know in that moment, especially with, and I think UTSA kind of saw this on both sides with their pitchers that at times were, early on were struggling a little bit with their command, and the ACU pitchers that were doing a little better with their command. The umpire, not necessarily on purpose or anything, or as like a punishment, but it seems like a lot of times when you're struggling with your command, you're not going to get that benefit of the doubt, or the call's not going to really go your way, because maybe it's just not hugging that line or catching that corner of the plate as well as the other guy, and the other guy's getting the call and you're not. The other thing in terms of hitting, just runners left on base. UTSA left 13 runners on base. Twice, bases loaded situation. Bottom of the ninth, they had bases loaded with 2 outs. Back in the bottom of the third, they had bases loaded with 1 out. 2 strikeouts to end the inning, so not even putting the ball in play and getting a sac fly. And then in the 5th inning, they left 2 on base with just 1 out. So, leaving the runners on base is one thing, leaving runners in scoring position, but then when you're in a situation where it looks like you kind of got the benefit of the, they call a hitter's count in the at bat. You've kind of got the advantage there with bases loaded, and this is going back to first weekend of the season. They had second and third with 1 out or maybe even no outs, and just couldn't capitalize, and ended up losing by a run. And so you know, and that it all kind of goes together. If you're striking out a lot, if you're not having great at bats at the plate, and the hits just aren't finding their spots or falling in, then it's all going to kind of build up to the runners left on base, and more runners left on base means less runs, and so it's just the trickle down effect of just not having a great offensive output, and definitely want to see that be worked with. Pitching even early on, holding ACU to four hits when your offense is struggling, and when you can get the pitching performance to keep you in the game. Ryan Ward gave up the 2-run home run, and that gave ACU their third and fourth runs, which ended up being enough. But still, they held them to 4 runs through the 9 innings, just the 4 hits. Talked about the walks and the hit by pitch that helped them get some of those extra runs when they only have 4 hits, and then the error, of course. But 3 of the 4 pitchers that pitched tonight didn't give up any hits. Ryan Ward was the only one, and he actually gave up all 3 earned runs. Connor Miles with the other run allowed unearned because of the error. And, Ryan Beard, Connor Miles, and Ryan Ward all gave up at least 1 walk. The unfortunate thing in all of this is Ryan Ward exiting with an apparent elbow injury. When the trainer came out, immediately started grabbing that elbow region. You're thinking, all right, UCL, some type of ligament in that area. Haven't heard anything official yet, but hopefully it's nothing major, nothing substantial. Ryan Ward has a lot of experience. He's been in moments ever since his freshman year at UTSA. And so, you hope the best for him and hope that he gets a good progress report when they get more information, and see what happens with that. But yeah, the walks and just the way they kind of, the timing of them and being paired with the hits and everything ultimately is where ACU's runs came from for the most part. And definitely, though, big kudos to Braylon Owens. Came in, they looked like they were going to give Ryan Ward another inning and have him log 3 innings. Had the injury. Owens came out of the bullpen, got as much time as he wanted to warm up, and had a great, maybe even, I'm pretty confident to say his best outing of the season so far. 4.2 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts, just throwing some absolute nasty stuff. Did hit 1 batter, but I think that was more from just like the stuff he was throwing on the mound than anything, and did all that in just 55 pitches. So almost 5 complete innings in just 55 pitches. And that brings his season ERA down to a 2.25. So good stuff out of Braylon. I don't know because I'm trying to think if he's started any this season. I don't think he has. I know he started a little bit last season in like some of the Tuesday games and stuff. But, I'm not sure if they want him to be more of the middle reliever guy. They've got kind of some starters right now they're staying with, Robert Orlowski and Zach Royce, having Fisher Kingsbury open it up, and then even Daniel Garza a couple times. But if anything, a good middle relief option, even towards the end with the ability to eat innings and just log several innings if he's cooking. And so we'll see, and especially depending on what happens with Ryan Ward and what that might do to the depth, depending on what that outcome is and what we hear on that, or what we see rather. Having Braylon as that option, as an option in the middle, definitely helps a lot. So great outing by Braylon tonight to, when UTSA was having a hard time getting hits together and everything, his outing definitely keeping them within reach. And I mentioned this at some point recently, but like when your offense is struggling the way it is, like anytime the opposing team scores a run, it seems like they're almost getting like 2 or 3 runs for every run they're actually getting. And so for him to keep it close like that was awesome and very helpful. Unfortunately, not quite enough, as we know, but a great performance. Well, that should, as far as I know, wrap things up against WAC opponents for this season. In terms of weekend series, conference play starts next weekend. This weekend it's Northwestern. They're obviously not in the WAC, so definitely not any more weekend series against WAC teams. Midweek, they play Texas State next week. They've got Baylor. They've got a home and away with UIW. Still, Texas home and away with Texas State. They play at A&M. A&M's on a tear right now. They were in a barn burner against Sam Houston State. A&M got out tonight. I'm not sure how it finished up. I don't have SEC Nation Plus or SEC Network Plus, so I couldn't watch that one. But A&M got up to a huge lead. Sam Houston clawed all the way back. He was like 8-8 in the bottom of the 8th. But A&M is looking super good. They've got a couple guys that are looking lights out and looking really good from the plate. So, that's one. I don't think, trying to think of some other Tuesday games just off the top of my head, but it looks like I'm pretty sure they're done with the WAC. And, of the 11 games they played against WAC teams, 6-5, so not great by any means. Split the Tuesday game with the Tuesday series with Tarleton, took the series against Grand Canyon, split the series against UT Arlington. So, right above 500 in terms of their record against WAC teams this year. So, definitely not the start that I think a lot of us expected. And we'll see. I mean, baseball is a game of momentum, and you can get in grooves and you can get on hot streaks, and we'll see. They are 8-9 at this point, and hopefully, a good weekend series against Northwestern, get some wins, and then go to San Marcos and see how that game goes next Tuesday. I've got plans to be down there for that, or over there, across there, whatever, down 35, but, and just to prove the point as we wrap things up, caught the end of Texas State's game against A&M Corpus Christi just a little bit ago, and Texas State won 2-1. It was in, I'm sorry, not A&M, Corpus Christi, Tarleton. Texas State beat Tarleton 2-1 down in, or up in Stevensville. So, yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. So, keep hoping, keep following along, and hoping that the offense can figure it out. The pitching can work on some things and keep helping with some of these performances and stuff, and get some things cleaned up all across the board. But for now, thank you for listening. Appreciate it as always. And if you're out at the Bird Bath this weekend, hope to see you there. Come say hi, come get a discount code, and may even have some Alamo Audible merch on hand. So if you want to, purchase anything, might be able to offer that at a discount as well. But come say hey. And then, the last thing, mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, but planning on next week doing kind of a all-together combo episode, recapping the Texas State game, previewing or talking about the conference, like AAC as a whole, how they're all shaping up, looking, and how all the teams look going into conference play, similar to like what we did last year with myself, Jared, and Adrian, and then previewing the ECU series. So kind of doing a 3-part bigger episode with that. Gonna have Jared and Adrian on again, or planning on having them both on again to help with that, and hope that we'll have a good win to talk about. A UTSA win to talk about against Texas State. Last year went pretty well when they went over to Texas State. But yeah, for now, just birds up and go Runners.